Welcome back to the Go podcast, man. Episode 99. NFL preseason starts tomorrow with the Hall of Fame game. Team USA in the Olympic basketball team just capturing a dub today, going 2-0 with their win over South Sudan, 103-86. We'll touch on that real quick, and then we're going to dive into our season predictions. This week, we got the East divisions, NFC, AFC East. We'll get into those after we cover Team USA so far. 2-0. No struggles this time around against South Sudan. Bam, obviously the leading scorer. Now, obviously, 8 for 10 from the field, 18 points. Put on a showing. Embiid, the only DNP today. Tatum got the start. Halliburton got some minutes as well. But Team USA looking good so far. I think they went with almost your starting lineup of what you kind of predicted with South Sudan today. I think you just had Ant in over Booker, but pretty much the same lineup kind of. Your takes so far, Team USA 2-0 so far in group play.
Yeah, I mean, Team USA, we talked about, didn't look the best in the exhibition games leading up. Had a couple of comeback wins, got down early, especially to South Sudan. That was a big game. Came back 1 point. But early against Serbia, first quarter was a little rocky. But I think Team USA. We talked about once they get that chemistry going, once all those guys come in and click and play really well together, I think it'll be cruising from there. And funny enough, all it took was KD to come in. The dude who played no games, had no experience, was just practicing, had no 5-on-5 run, and they just put him in there. And it just felt like he was the missing link. Came in against Serbia, didn't miss his first shot until I think like the fourth quarter, made all of his threes, crazy turnaround buzzer beaters before the half, just, top-tier shot making. That's what got them to win against Serbia. And then some defense this second game against South Sudan. In the first exhibition game, South Sudan came out, was playing fast, was getting a bunch of threes up, better defense. And I just think, that addition to KD adds another element of scoring, and you've seen LeBron running the offense. So I guess the answer to all of Team USA's problems was Kevin Durant. Who would have thought? But, yeah, I mean, Serbia in the group play, probably their biggest challenge so far. I think they play Puerto Rico next, who just got blown out by Serbia earlier today. So it should be a relatively easy matchup. I think you do see Embiid play next game because, watching the Serbia and Puerto Rico matchup, there was really no one to guard Jokic. They had one big man on Jokic, but once he was subbed out and Jokic was on that court with no big man, he pretty much could do whatever he wanted. I think he was one assist shy of an assist, blown layup by your boy, Baby Jovic.
I didn't see that.
I think, messed up Joker's triple-double, then they took him out. But regardless, I think it's just funny how, Team USA coming out playing extremely dominant basketball, especially first game, Kevin Durant not missing, arguably the best Olympic basketball player in Team USA history. And then this game coming out, getting a nice, comfortable win against a team that put up a big fight. But both games, all everyone's talking about is who's getting playing time, who's not playing, who's this and that. So, I mean, I guess when your team is so good and you're just expected to win every game by like 30, people got to nitpick. You got to find something to talk about. And I guess that's it. So, jokes online going around saying –
Kerr got me the water.
Yeah. Kerr got bullied into starting Tatum, like saying, take away Joel Embiid's citizenship. Like, the jokes are going around and stuff. And it's funny and stuff, but I mean, it just shows you how good this team is. Like, you can beat a team like Serbia, who has Nikola Jokic and adequate talent, and you can beat them very comfortably. And you can have someone like Jaden Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton not touch the floor. And then you come back and beat a South Sudan team and not even have to play someone like Joel Embiid, a league MVP, and still get a comfortable win. So I just think it shows how talented this team is and the bunch of different lineups this team can go to and how some players are more expendable than others because, on the NBA teams, respectfully, all these guys are the number one option. Well, you can't all be the number one option on the same team. So that's just how the cookie crumbles. But I think Team USA will be fine.
Yeah, Jovic smoked that layup for the Nuggets beating the Heat 2 years ago in the finals. That was sort of revenge against Jokic, but
it's okay. Bam made up for it.
Yeah, Bam did make up for it. My favorite meme, I'm sorry, is the one at Tatum. It's make sure there's no trash left behind when we leave. Make sure the bench is cleared. It was just personally my favorite. But I agree, man. Too many dogs out there. Someone's got to take the short end of the stick some games. And it just happened to be Embiid this game. And, I mean, cooked it up perfectly because Bam was out there hooping. He was their best player. And AD got the start. Bam off the bench. Exactly what they needed today against South Sudan and Puerto Rico. Yeah, they're minus – I was just looking at it, minus 52 so far in the 2 games against South Sudan and Serbia. So should be a cakewalk.
And I think you definitely playing more of the matchups in this game as well. Against Serbia, you have Jokic, you have some guys with size. The game's not going to be as fast paced. You can play and beat, but a team like South Sudan where they just got a bunch of wings who want to run and get shots up quick. I mean, we all know Embiid's not in shape. That's not his game. He's not trying to move fast. So you get guys out there like Bam, like AD, big man that can run, that can protect the rim, but still, be able to provide something in transition in those faster-paced games. So, I mean, it's just, an abundance of riches for Team USA in terms of who can they put on the floor, lineups. We were talking before, like Curry went 1 for 9 in this game, and they still won by double digits, like a comfortable victory. So even if guys aren't playing 100% the best, even if guys aren't playing at all, Team USA will be fine.
All right, man. That's going to push us to our season predictions in the NFL, man. I mentioned Hall of Fame game tomorrow night in Canton, Ohio. Per usual, let's start with your division, the NFC East, man. Let's go 4 through 1, bottom of the division going to the top. Your predictions, your records, and, whatever notes you got along with those squads. You go ahead, start us off.
All right. So for the East, I have
East, yep.
Yeah, the NFC East. I got the Commanders coming in with about 6 wins, and I think you'll see a trend, not only, just this episode talking about teams, but I think many other episodes breaking down a bunch of these teams for all these other divisions. It's the most important position in football, so when there's a question mark there, when there's a young guy, when there's instability, it's going to be the main thing you talk about. And so for the Commanders, it all comes down to Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Took him, I believe, with the 2nd overall pick in this year's draft. A super talented quarterback and, not the worst weapon room around him. You got Terry McLaurin, a true number 1 receiver in this league who's produced with, a circus carousel of quarterbacks in this league so far. Very, very consistent. Jahan Dotson there as well. Solid number 2, a decent run game with Brian Robinson. So there's some pieces there for this team to be successful. And Cliff Kingsbury coming over as an offensive coordinator. He's had some success years with guys similar to Jaden Daniels in skill set, whether it's, Kyler Murray at Arizona. I believe he also coached Johnny Manziel at A&M, was with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. So guys that can get out the pocket, guys that can move, guys that can create off-platform, kind of fits the bill of Jaden McDaniels. So new head coach, I believe Dan Quinn, he's coming over. So hopefully the defensive side of the ball, that'll get taken care of. Still some question marks there. Secondary, will they be able to play? But, I mean, I just really think it all comes down to Jaden Daniels. So I think 6 wins, maybe a little on the optimistic side if you believe in Jaden Daniels and think that, not a lot has to happen. They haven't had really good quarterback play since, RG3's rookie year. So that's been
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah, my fault. Kirk Cousins, although Washington Kirk Cousins isn't, the same as the Vikings Kirk Cousins. So
arguably better? I was kidding.
I'll give you Kirk, but, I mean, he was drafted the same year as RG3, shows how long ago that was. So, yeah, I definitely think for the Commanders, it just comes down to how good can Jaden Daniels be and how soon.
Well, I agree with you, but I got one team just a bit lower, and I got the New York Giants coming in at 5-12. They lose their heart and soul for the past I don't know how many years, and Saquon Barkley, he goes to your Philadelphia Eagles. The O-line really doesn't get much better in New York. They draft Malik Neighbors, good addition on the outside for Daniel Jones, but the problem with Daniel Jones was offensive line, no time in the pocket. And when they were a playoff team 2 years ago, it was established with that run game, with Saquon creating off play action, buying time for the quarterback via the play call. And they really don't have, a strong run game. Devin Singletary coming off his best season last year. He's their number one option, a 5.61 motor. I really don't think he's a workhorse number one load back in this league. He's a good 1-2 punch if you got him in your backfield, but really can't be the sole workhorse and your number one running back of the room. Definitely a huge downgrade from Saquon. The defense, front line, solid. They re-signed Isaiah Simmons, who they did get in a trade last year. So, a young guy that showed some promise some years. Not some years, but definitely high potential. Really hasn't played up to his potential so far in the league. And then you look at the offense, they brought in Darren Waller a couple years ago to be that guy. He retires, and now you're losing more weapons on the offensive side. I just don't see this Giants team being able to make it shake. Whether it was buyer's remorse with Daniel Jones, whether it was smoke screen coming into the draft, the front office wasn't sure what was going on with their quarterback situation, and their offensive line is just, frankly, not good at all. So you got to have a good O-line to be a good team. I got them getting 5 wins and being the bottom of the NFC East this year.
Yeah, well, I'm not too far off because I had the Commanders with about 6 wins, and then I also have the Giants at 6 wins. I think both of these teams are kind of in the same category, and you pretty much covered everything. Going over them and kind of looking at this roster, the first thing that came to my mind was, Danny worth the dimes. Can he live up to the contract? And you mentioned Saquon leaving to division rival Eagles. We'll talk about that coming up, hopefully in 2 teams, not 1. But we'll get to that. But, this offense still seems super lackluster. Reports coming through training camp. I mean, we're already seeing all the clips in Twitter and social media of Daniel Jones just, missing passes down the field, missing swing passes. I believe yesterday Malik Neighbors missed the practice just due to a rest day. Want to preserve him, make sure he's good for the season. And they said the Giants offense really struggled and that Malik Neighbors is basically their entire offense right now. So, not a good look for a team who is still trying to find himself offensively, still has question marks about their quarterback they paid. So you want to see that come in. You mentioned the run game, how good it was to help Daniel Jones and them that season where they made the playoffs, but I just don't see it being as good as it was. You mentioned the O-line. Malik Neighbors, he's really going to help Daniel Jones coming in and I think he can be a true number one instantly. One of those guys that come in, we see all these young receivers have success early. When you look at a guy like, a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, a Garrett Wilson, a bunch of these top tier talented receivers that come in, produce instantly. And I think Malik Neighbors can be another one of those guys. So I think that'll definitely help. But I just too many questions on the offense for me. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think you undersold them when you said their D-line is solid. I think this D-line can be arguably the best in the league. When you look at Dexter Lawrence, with Aaron Donald retiring, he could possibly be the best defensive tackle, best interior rusher in the league. Him and Chris Jones is definitely up there. Excellent run stopper. And then you trade for Brian Burns, another elite guy off the edge, super twitched up, super, speed coming off the edge. And then Thibodeau, a young guy, had, I think, double-digit sacks last year. Maybe not the best statistics, didn't get a lot of pressures, but someone showed that if he can get to the quarterback, if he's schemed up, he can finish those plays. So a scary good D-line. And you mentioned Isaiah Simmons. They also have Deontay Banks coming back his second year, some young guys in the secondary that's showing some promise. So I'm a little higher on this Giants defense than the Commanders. That's why I gave them a slight bump. But I think both of these teams are in the same tier. Just a lot more question marks for the Giants offensively. At least for the Commanders, you have a rookie quarterback and you really don't know what he is yet. So the upside and promise is there more than Daniel Jones, to where you're just hoping if he can get back to, a solid, decent, adequate starter. I think, there's pretty much definitely a ceiling on Daniel Jones at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what this team does. But, yeah, I got them also at about 6 wins.
Yeah, that's why I got the Commanders just ahead of them. 6 wins on the year. Exactly how you matched up. Just because of that question mark of Jaden Daniels. Could he have some rookie success coming into the league? We don't really know. Their defense is solid. I do like the Giants' defense better. I honestly think it's already an upgrade from Sam Howell last year. We haven't even seen him take a snap. Sam Howell reportedly really struggling in camp currently. They had veteran presence, Eckler, Bobby Wagner on the defensive side of the ball to sort of just lead this team, be the veteran presence for them. You touched on them pretty well. Not much to say. Just a big question mark with Jaden Daniels. Kind of just took the upside, and I looked at the schedule. I think the Giants had a little bit tougher matchups late in the year when the games start counting a little bit more, but I got the Commanders with 6 wins, just one ahead of the New York Giants.
Yeah, so we're both pretty much in the same boat when it comes to the bottom of this division now. I don't know what's so funny, but coming in second.
You got the Eagles, right?
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles. No, the Dallas Cowboys coming in at second. And, going into this, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. But looking at their schedule and still kind of going over things, I think Dallas can get 10 wins. I got Dallas at 10 wins. Going into it, being a Cowboys hater, a true Cowboys hater, I thought it was going to be a lot lower. I was like, finally, I get to put the Cowboys at like 6 wins, but 7 wins, 8 wins for the Cowboys. But no, bias aside, I think the Dallas Cowboys can get double-digit wins this year. And I think, the way this team is constructed, we'll talk about it, I think they should be aiming for 10 wins at least. The big story with the Cowboys, it's been all off season, and until these deals get done, man, it's going to be more money, more problems. They got 3 guys in 3 very prominent positions that all want top of the market money. You have Dak, quarterback. He's looking to sign the most expensive quarterback contract of all time, and he literally has all of the leverage. Like, I believe he has like a no trade clause, and he has a no tag clause as well, so he can opt to become a true unrestricted free agent this offseason if he doesn't like the offer Dallas has for him on the table. Go out in the free market, and I'm sure somebody, will be giving Dak that money. So Dallas wants to keep him. They're going to have to pay Dak. CeeDee Lamb, another guy we just talked about, coming into the top 100 players. I believe he's the highest ranked player on their team on that list, at least so far. They got him ranked ahead of Dak and Micah. And then you look at Micah Parsons, arguably the best pass rusher in the league, if not the best. He's up there with those top guys. You think of a TJ Watt, a Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. Micah Parsons' name is right up there as well. So, they have Dak, who could be looking for, the highest paid contract in the NFL. And then you have 2 other players in prominent positions who could be looking for the most money that's not a quarterback.
Position, yeah.
Not even in their respective position.
I think CD wants to be the highest non-paid quarterback in the league.
And then Micah Parsons can also make that, that argument with being a pass rusher. 2 very important positions, especially the way the league is heading now. Everyone's passing. Well, you got to catch the ball. That position becomes more important. And on defense, you got to stop the passing. Pass rushers become that much more important. So a lot of decisions to be made here by Jerry Jones. Not the best management of that, I would say. You could have got these deals done a while ago and saved a lot of money, because as time goes on, as more contracts are signed, as more money is given out to respective players, these guys are just going to want more money. So that's all it's going to come down to. And, especially the way this offense is looking, you lose Tony Pollard, although, wasn't much last year. Still a name that was valuable in the run game. You have no wide receiver too.
None.
You have tight end, question mark there.
It's solid.
Jake Ferguson's a solid question mark, but he's not a.
You don't know what he truly is.
He's not an elite tight end. Hasn't produced at that level.
Yeah.
And then you lose a couple pieces on the O-line as well. So offensively, the two guys that want all the money are the two guys that are your only staple, and the two guys that, if you're going to have success, they're going to carry you. So the price is going to go up even more. Like if the Cowboys have 10 wins, Dak and CeeDee Lamb are both going to be healthy, and they're both going to have really good seasons, because that's literally the only way for success for the Cowboys right now. And defensively, I mean, they had some trouble against the run last season, some big injuries in the secondary. Diggs comes back fully healthy. You saw a report that he's fully cleared.
Mm-hmm.
So having him and Bland, two, ball hawks, guys that know how to take away the ball, can't give up some big plays, but creating turnovers, getting those extra possessions, those are always important. And then Micah on the edge, as long as he's healthy, as long as he's out there, he's going to be a problem. So I think this Cowboys team is still a very solid team. Some big question marks. That's why, I wouldn't put them up there, spoiler, with the Eagles or some of these other elite teams in NFC or some of these other Super Bowl contending teams in the AFC. But I think they can make the playoffs. I think, if everything goes right and these guys have good seasons, low-key, I'm kind of hoping they have, good seasons, because they just have to get more money, and then that way Cowboys just wouldn't be able to pay them, so they wouldn't be on Dallas. But regardless, I think the Cowboys, 10 wins, they'll be a competitive team. But like I said before, man, until these 3 deals get done, this is going to be all the talk in the town. Cowboys, America's team, the biggest brand in football. Everyone's going to be talking about it. And, depending on how these guys play, it's going to be really good or really bad. So interesting to see what will go down this year in Dallas. A lot of guys looking for a big payday.
Well, they also have extremely low attendance in training camp so far, if you saw the pictures. But
I did see that.
I got your Eagles at number 2. No, I'm just playing. I got the Cowboys. I got them at 11 wins, 11-6. I mean, you mentioned it. Dak, CD. Last year you said it's tough to win at Jerry's World. I mean, you're right. It's tough to beat the Cowboys at home unless you're the Packers on what? Thanksgiving or Christmas it was?
The playoffs.
Playoffs, yeah. I mean, unless you're the Packers in the playoffs, tough to beat them at home. You mentioned it, running back room. I think they're paying Zeke more money on his last contract than his current contract.
Yeah.
So there's that. You mentioned no wide receiver too. There's no depth in the receiver room. Can't get Dak any help outside of CeeDee Lamb. Someone creating space on the outside. Tough. You mentioned he likes the tight end. Jake Ferguson, really unproven, hasn't done too much in the league. His number is going to be called upon a lot this year, I believe, in that offense, because there's literally nobody else for him. Their defense, you look at it, I mean, they get Eric Kendricks, Malik Hooker, but it's like 2 aging guys. They lose key pieces on their defense this year with Leighton Vander Esch. You got Bland, you got Diggs coming back off the injury. It's going to help the secondary room, but this defense isn't really, there's no one elite outside of Micah Parsons and maybe Diggs 2 years ago when he was, up there for DPOY. They really don't excite you, but you lean upon one of the best receivers in the game in CeeDee Lamb, which he is, and Dak Prescott, who in the regular season is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Come January, totally different story when it comes to Dak. His numbers in the regular season, arguably, one of the best in the league. So I think it's good enough to get them 11 wins. But once again, it's the Cowboys. The playoffs come. This is going to be, what do we need? What do we need? And you mentioned no money over there in Dallas. Got a lot of players to pay. And you think they would have extended, either Micah or CD when they knew they were young superstars, when they could have in years past. But they didn't. Now they're playing on 5th-year options, and you just see what happens to the Cowboys. Super Bowl or bust this year, I guess.
All right. And coming in at number 1, I have the Eagles, and I got them going undefeated, man. They won't lose a game this year. I'm trolling.
Yeah.
That'd be fun, but
realistic. 10-0, and then what'd they finish? 12 and
No, they finished. I think they had 11 wins last year. I think 11 or 10. I can't remember. But regardless, coming from the most unbiased and level-headed Eagles fan you'll probably ever talk to, I have the Eagles coming in at 12 wins. So, I didn't go too crazy, but I think 12 wins is a solid number for the Eagles, especially with all of the talent they have on this roster, and can they just put it together? Arguably, I think you can make a really good argument that, from top to bottom at every position, this is the most talented roster in the league. I just think that talent and coaching has to come together. I mean, Sirianni and Hurts, they've been together for their entire tenures, but there's been different OCs, different defensive coordinators, kind of a carousel. And I think that's the biggest problem when you have a head coach. Usually it's the defensive guys, but Sirianni is an offensive head coach and can't call plays, so it makes it even more interesting. Whereas, he's not the guru play caller. He's not, the super advanced offensive mind, so the offense is always changing. All of those coordinators that had success, you look at Shane Steichen, he has a good season. What happens? He goes gets a head coaching job. Last year, Brian Johnson, he wasn't the answer. He's fired. So now they bring in Kellen Moore, another offense for Jalen Hurts to learn. And then Vic Fangio coming in. I know, you had some remarks about him in Miami last season, but
I don't know how that guy won a Super Bowl, but yeah, go ahead.
Another defense for this team to learn again. So I just think it's going to come down to coaching, and can the talent come together on both sides of the ball, and expect a lot from these younger guys to step up on the roster. Two legends in their own regard, Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, retired this offseason. So you're looking for some big shoes to fill on both of those sides of the ball, in two, important positions, the offensive line, defensive line, kind of the anchors of both of those. So Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, two guys, young guys that have shown some flashes, got a lot of hype. I'm not going to turn this into an Eagles podcast, with everything going on in training camp and all the news coming out. But Jalen Carter looking to have, so far, having a really solid camp, adding some pass rush moves. Can he take that next step and be one of those elite defenders? And then on the offensive side of the ball, you got Cam Jurgens, who they drafted a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I believe. He's had time to sit behind Jason Kelce and learn. It's kind of like the successor draft pick when they made it. So talent all over. Secondary was upgraded. They went out and attacked it. We saw what happened. It seemed like every week I would come onto the show and talk about James Bradbury getting beat, Kevin Byard not making a play.
Your boy's gone though, man.
Big play Slade. He was solid but still getting beat. So it's nice to see that secondary was addressed in big regards. When you look at free agency and the draft, two young guys in the secondary, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper Jean, and then you bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, on that Super Bowl run. He's a very key part, led the league in interceptions for us. And then you also bring in Isaiah Rodgers, who was suspended last year, didn't get to play, I believe, for gambling, I think, or PEDs, one of the two. Isaiah Rodgers, the Colts from the corner from the Colts. But he's had a super, super good camp. It looks like he's getting starting reps on the outside. So secondary seems to be addressed. But like I said, man, it literally just comes down to if all of this talent can put it together with the coaching. And I didn't even touch on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, all those guys, all those weapons on the offense coming together. Dallas Goedert, offensive line still looking strong. And the Kellen Moore scheme, a lot of positive things we're seeing from this Eagles team. Basically everything that we didn't have last year, no motion, no play action, a lot of stagnant runs. Well, reports are coming out that it's the opposite of that in training camp. So hoping for the best and hoping that, this team can put it together, because if they do, and if they play their best football at the right time, not the wrong time like last year, I think they can contend for a Super Bowl.
Yo, I thought they released Vontae Maddox.
Vontae Maddox still there. James Bradbury is still on the team as well.
Yeah. I know. I thought, for some reason, they released him.
Well, they did release him, but they signed him back to the practice squad. Signed him to like a 1-year deal, so he's back. He's getting some reps at nickel and safety as well, but he's one of those guys where, he's a solid player when he's on the field, but he's been banged up.
Yeah, never healthy.
The last couple years. So he's kind of, penciled in to miss a handful of games. So you still got to have that depth. And that's kind of what hurt us last year. He was banged up, bringing in Kevin Byard in the middle of the season. Hard to adjust, hard to, get comfortable in the middle of the season with the injuries and stuff like that. Sidney Brown, promising young safety last year, tore his ACL. He's working to get back on the field. So injuries really killed us last year, not having the depth. Well, this year, Howie went out and made sure we had more than enough depth. So I think the secondary should be much improved this year.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't need to touch on the Eagles too much. My key points, Jalen Hurts finally getting healthy. He was banged up all last year. I think that was a big part.
Yeah.
Along with that offensive scheme that you mentioned that if anyone ever tunes into the podcast, last year, week in and week out is the same thing on repeat. The offensive scheme and the defense, DB secondary just being absolutely burnt toast. They go ahead, bring a guy I really like back, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, big key addition. He was a big part of their NFC championship run 2 years ago before leaving for the Lions, and then obviously back to the Eagles now. And I really think the Eagles got the steals of the draft. They get Quinion Mitchell, you mentioned, and Cooper DeJean. And literally, I think, back-to-back rounds, but it was like 15 pick separation. Yeah. It wasn't even that crazy. 2 dogs on the outside. I think Quinion obviously being the higher overall pick, but his size on the outside. Cooper DeJean maybe playing a little bit of nickelback, possibly for the Eagles.
And it's funny you say that, but it's literally been the reverse so far in camp. Yeah. Q's been getting a lot of reps in the nickel. DeJean, I believe, he had a hamstring injury or pull something. Yeah. So he's been on ice. But, I mean, everyone, it was the same mindset as you. Everyone thought they'd draft Q. He'd come in and kind of be the successor on the outside. But his elite speed, super, super intelligent guy, that, versatility he brings to the table, he's getting first-team reps in the nickel. So Vic Fangio did come out and say that, they don't care if you're rookies or if you're, this is your 10th year in the league and you're a veteran. They're going to put the best guys on the field to help this team win. And it looks like they feel like Quinion Mitchell can contribute in the slot. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. And that's kind of like a bonus, because I thought they'd just stick him on the outside. That's where he played at in college. And you mentioned he has the side and the athleticism to hang out on the outside as well. But showing that he can play in the box, has some good reps against A.J. Brown during camp yesterday. So I'm super excited for this defense in the secondary.
Yeah, man. It's going to wrap up the NFC East with our picks. I'm at 12 wins, too. So same boat there. Oh, John Ross, man, Madden legend.
He did bring in John Ross.
Got some speed on the outside for
Although
the Eagles.
It's looking like rookie Johnny Wilson from Florida State might have him beat out so far. He's been getting some wide receiver 3 reps. Just insane. Like a 6'7" receiver. He's been apparently showing out in the red zone, which makes sense when you're that big.
Yeah.
Just throw it up.
You got to be a red zone target. NFC East. This division, I think, just like I said last year, I think this is the second best division in football, in my opinion, if teams stay healthy per se this year. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off here?
All right. Coming in at number 4, the Dolphins.
Yeah. Okay.
That's 2 in that contract. I mean, they lost a lot of talent. No, yeah, I think the Dolphins won't come in last. Listen, I'm high on Drake May. No. Yeah, the Patriots reports? Coming in at number 4, man. I had the Patriots at around 4 wins. And, going over this, I'm sure you can agree because you're a Dolphins fan, but it just felt so good putting the Patriots, at the bottom of the division for the second year in the row. 4 wins.
I might have been generous with how many wins I gave them, too.
Yeah, I had them at about 4 wins, but nothing lasts forever, man. This is going to be the first season post Brady and Belichick era for the Pats. So, I mean,
Mayo time.
Yeah, a reign that's spanned our entire lifetime finally comes to an end. So it's going to be kind of weird seeing Patriots football without either one of those guys on the field or the sideline. But, I mean, this team has questions literally all the way down from ownership to, who's going to be taking out the garbage. Like,
might be Drake May, but
yeah, it might be. But, is Bob Kraft still calling the shots, or now is it his son? Reports about those guys not really sure, struggle for power. Robert Kraft not ready to hand it over, and his son ready to take it over. Gerard Mayo, I mean, you can think he's a good coach, comes from a really good lineage, played for Belichick and coached for him. So you can, pretty much assume the defense is going to be in solid hands. But you still haven't seen him be a head coach in the league, and you can't really just pencil in a A+ head coach for him right now. So question marks at coach. And then we talked about quarterback, the most important position in football. Question mark there with Drake May. I'll let you talk about the reports and stuff that's been coming out, but looking very shaky early on. Polarizing prospect, has a lot of tools, but can he read the defenses? Can he make the right reads? That's going to be a question mark, not even for Drake May, but just any young quarterback, first time coming into the league. And not a lot of weapons on the offense either. They drafted a couple rookies, got some young guys showing out, poke on the outside. They got some young guys looking to step up, make some plays, but really outside of Ramondre Stevenson, which is, he's not even an elite top of the league running back. He's a good running back, but outside of him, they have really nothing to go off of on the offensive side of the ball. But touching on Gerard Mayo, I like this Patriots defense. They're going to be well coached. I think this defense can still be pretty solid. It's going to be the same scheme, a lot of the same stuff. So not a big turnover on this side of the ball. Their defense was surprisingly pretty solid down the stretch as well. You get Christian Gonzalez back coming off of that torn ACL last year. Pretty much a redshirt rookie season for him. Only played a handful of games. So he showed a lot of promise. And then defensive line is solid. You'll get a lot of good play from the DBs and linebackers. They'll be coached well also with Gerard Mayo being a former linebacker himself. So not really worried about the defensive scheme at all for this team. Just big questions at the quarterback position, and offense just really doesn't have enough, at least at this point, to kind of produce to keep up with teams. So Patriots, one of the teams clearly in a rebuild. Nice to see that, Patriots fans, they deserve this. They deserve to have a couple of seasons not on the top after, like I said, our entire lives being the best team in the NFL. So it's okay, Patriots fans. It'll get better.
Well, actually, I got the New York Jets right now. I'm just playing.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers injured.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah,
second drive this year. I'm kidding. Pats 5-win season for him, one ahead of you. They re-signed Jabril Peppers, Stevenson extension. They get KJ Osborne in on the outside.
That's not moving the needle.
I mean, it's not moving the needle. It's a solid pickup.
He's a wide receiver 3 for the Vikings.
If they had, behind Justin Jefferson and last year, Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
But no more Bill Belichick, new era in Foxborough, something in the last, 20 years hasn't been seen. Jacoby Brissett, veteran quarterback, back in New England.
5-6-1 legend.
That's why 5-win team. I think he could carry, this team to some wins with his experience and with his quarterback play. When I had made this a few days ago, I put Brissett, question mark bridge for Drake May. Those reports that 6th-round draft pick Joe Milton out of Tennessee's.
Another 5-6-1 legend.
Yep, outperforming Drake May in camp, and Drake May's looking like he's going to be the number 3 option currently. So Joe Milton, he's out there balling in camp so far. But Christian Gonzalez coming back from the ACL, I really loved that pick last year. You mentioned only a handful of games. If he comes back healthy, like the Christian Gonzalez he can be as a solid player on the outside. You mentioned Gerard Mayo. The defense is going to be just okay on that side of the ball. There's really no worries for them being, really bad. So I think he's solid on that end, the offensive side. Big question marks, but I think they got the steal of the draft, man. 3rd-round pick Javon Baker out of UCF, the absolute dog. So I don't know who's going to be throwing him the rock, but you get him the rock, he's going to make some plays for him on the offense. So I like that pickup. Sad he's in New England because his talents are just going to be wasted out there, I believe. But some hope for my boy, UCF Orlando legend Javon Baker. It got good hands, good speed. Can make a man miss after the catch as well, from what I've seen. But I got the Patriots 5 wins on the year, coming in dead last and it does feel pretty good. So they also should think about like a rebrand because they got the worst drip in the league. Their uniforms are trash. They play in Foxborough. It's always ugly out there. Like, let's work on maybe getting the franchise better if Robert Kraft's really out, you know, maybe switch it over a little bit, but I got him dead last.
There you go. Some top tier hating. When it rains, it pours.
Bro, is their drip not like blue and silver?
But yeah, I definitely think the Patriots, err on the side of caution with Drake May, especially after those reports coming out. Now, how true are they? Is there any validity to it?
We're not in the building.
I mean, it's neither here nor there. Regardless, there was some question marks about Drake May coming out and him being ready to start. There's a reason they bring in someone like Jacoby Brissett, a solid, adequate backup who can get you some games in. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just sit Drake May this entire season, especially if those reports are true and they just have Brissett kind of be the bridge this entire year until May is really ready. But yeah, you were rattling off their quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett and Milton, two Palm Beach legend quarterbacks produced from here. Not a lot of good talent coming out of here. So if Drake May can't beat those guys out coming from the 5-6-1, that's not.
We got some dogs,
not
man.
The best
we got
look,
some
man.
dogs.
Playing down here, watching the quarterback plays.
Maybe quarterback play. Yeah.
Not,
not the best
not the best quarterback.
We got some athletes.
No, athletes, yeah, for sure. But in terms of quarterbacks,
yeah, maybe not the best
to be
quarterback
seen.
play. Shake Milton, man. He might be a dog. You never know.
No, but yeah, shout out to Brissett and Milton, both putting on for the county.
Yeah, man.
But next, I have, and you said this is like second best division. I was like, but looking at these teams, I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have the Jets.
Okay.
At 10 wins.
All right. Yeah.
Spoiler, I also have the Bills at 10 wins. This is another kind of like similar.
You want to know a spoiler? I both got them at 10 wins.
You do as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I had the Bills at 9 to 10 wins, so I should say the Bills are third, but
I think that's how it's going to go because if Rodgers is truly healthy, that defense I think is too stacked, but
that's the thing, man. I just think this Jets team has too many question marks health-wise
that
on
Bills
the offense.
Team defensively, it's just they lost pieces.
But, I mean, it's going to be
relying on Allen 50 times a game. All right, yeah.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm going to say Jets come in at third, and I'm not hating on the Jets. I still have them getting 10 wins, and I can see this Jets team, like you mentioned, if everything goes right, they could win this division. But I just think at this point, there's too many question marks on this offense. Now, I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. Growing up, watching him play, one of the best quarterbacks of our generation, one of the best quarterback talents of all time. So I'm ready to see him back on the field. It's just 40 years old, coming off an Achilles injury, and there's always going to be something with him. Like whether it's warranted or not, there's just always something going on with Aaron Rodgers, not football related. So that's going to be a tough distraction. Offensive line was a nightmare last season. It was pretty much the reason Rodgers got injured on the second play of the year.
Yep.
His second or first pass attempt. Slightly upgraded. They brought in, some tackle help with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, but those are two guys on the north side of 30. Tyron Smith with the injury history, Morgan Moses, how much can you rely on him? Two guys kind of, in the twilight of the career on their later sides. Will they both be able to fully hold up and provide Rodgers with that protection? Not sure. And then to replace them, you have a rookie, Olufashanu. He's talented, high draft pick, but once again, he's a rookie. He's got to get acclimated. So it's like they have a bunch of tackles with the upside, but they don't really have any stability in the middle on that offensive line. Still some question marks at center. And with the guards, Elijah Vera Tucker, he's really good when he plays, but it's when he plays. He's been banged up so far his career as well. So keeping Rodgers upright. And then you look at the weapons. Garrett Wilson, he is a legit wide receiver one. Another guy that could be looking for a paycheck coming up soon. But outside of Garrett Wilson, receiver-wise, it's like Mike Williams, he's been injury-prone as well. He's coming off of an ACL. another guy in his 30s. How good is he going to be at this point in his career? And then you look at guys like, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson. MVS, he comes over. I mean, from an Eagles fan, a very forgettable name, but someone I should be thanking for dropping that pass against the Eagles last year and pretty much won us the game. Regardless, he has that connection with Rodgers, from Green Bay. Someone Rodgers has that, rapport with. So I just think this is like, if you like to gamble, this is like just your favorite team. Like you could literally be.
He's on the Bills. I'm tripping.
Oh, MVS on the Bills. Yeah. We'll talk about him next. But yeah,
Lazard. Yeah, that's who I was saying.
Yeah, if you like gambling, I mean, go all in on the Jets. Like you could win the Super Bowl, or you could be worse than the Patriots. Like there's literally like, it's hard to find an in between. A boom or bust team. You mentioned the defense. I think that is going to be the one thing that is shored up on this team. Solid coaches those guys up really well. They have a bunch of talent at all three levels. Both of the Quincy brothers, Sauce, arguably the best corner in the league. A bunch of guys on that defensive side of the ball. I think the defense will be, once again, one of the better defenses in the league. It just comes down to health, and can all these guys put it together basically for the first year. Last year was kind of like a redshirt year, so you missed that, chemistry building with Rodgers. You missed some of that camaraderie. Rodgers and Garrett Wilson didn't get to build that in-game chemistry that he had with guys like Jordy Nelson, like a Randall Cobb, like a Devontae Adams, a Greg Jennings. I think Garrett Wilson is talented, and he can be up in the group with those guys that Aaron Rodgers has played with. But the main thing all those guys had, along with elite talent, was Rodgers trusted them immensely. He was like their go-to target, the safety blanket for Rodgers. Don't have that chemistry just yet. It would have been nice if they had a chance to develop it last year, and then they come in this year on the same page, hit the ground running, but they got to develop that. Breece Hall, solid run game. He's one of the best backs in the league, super explosive. So I think that'll be something Rodgers, if, it's a little rocky first, he can rely on just handing that ball off to Breece Hall. He'll get the job done on the ground in the passing game as well. So solid defense, just Rodgers in this offense, man. A lot of question marks, and I just can't put him over Josh Allen. And we always say this, most important position. Well, right now the Bills are a lot more stable than the Jets at quarterback, so I'll give them that slight nod. But like I said, this Jets team has the ceiling of pretty much any team in the league.
Yeah, so you mentioned the tackle position. I like the addition of Fashanu at the tackle position. I think they're just kind of hoping one of those older guys stays healthy. And if the other one goes down, yeah, sure, he could play. Maybe he swings the guard if there's an injury on the interior. I'm not sure what their plan is with him as far as the offensive line. The additions of Mike Williams, you mentioned older player. Hassan Reddick, older player.
Just holding out right now also. Hasn't participated at all for them.
Someone that came off a down year as well. Didn't really ball out after the season.
Heard me talk about that. Right. Heard me talk about that a lot last year.
That's your boy, man, over there in Philly, but
not performing.
As I saw a clip, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers arguing today at camp, and Garrett Wilson, being a young player in the league, obviously was not listening to Aaron Rodgers and was getting very animated with him, but expect him wide receiver one. You mentioned his skill set, easily could be a top receiver in the league. Hasn't had much quarterback play the past couple of years, and still produces as he does. It's impressive. Depth at the receiver position. You mentioned, Lazard, Mike Williams. Can Mike Williams stay healthy? Because when he did, I think 2 years ago, he truly balled out in L.A. With Herbert. So now he gets Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. So probably an upgrade. We really don't know at the age of 40. You mentioned the Achilles injury. Big question marks everywhere around that offense. Breece Hall, obviously elite running back in this league as well. That defense, they were elite last year. They were winning games for the team when the offense couldn't score more than 7 points, 3 points, 10 points a game, as the Jets offense was doing. You mentioned Sauce, elite level corner. they really got no weak spots on that defense. Every position is solid. So for the Jets, it really comes down to Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, Achilles injury, and can that O-line hold up, like you mentioned. So 10-7, got them same as the Bills. Coin flip on Aaron Rodgers' health.
Yeah, and then, like I mentioned, man, I got the Bills right there with them. I had 9-10 wins, but I'll be
561 legend, also bridge quarterback Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Travis, but
yeah, Jordan
another
Travis.
561 product.
Yeah, another 561 product. I actually played against him in 7-on-7, so that's cool.
How'd you end up on a huddle?
I can't remember. Actually, I don't think we played him. I think he was in the other bracket, or on the other side of the bracket.
He was in the A group, is what you're saying. You're B.
No, they were like on the north side, and we were south. So I think they made the championship, but we lost in like the second round or whatever,
round.
or like in the. We basically lost in the game like before to go play them, so we didn't play them.
All right.
Yeah. Regardless, the Bills coming in at 10 wins along with the Jets, and I kind of hinted why that reason is, and it is literally just Josh Allen. We kind of saw them become more Josh Allen-centric last season as well down the stretch, and it looked like he was carrying. I mean, he came up, got some big wins, pretty much won the division for them down in Miami at the end of the year last season. Got some big wins down the stretch in the playoffs.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't say he won it. I would say the Dolphins really lost that game, but
regardless, he was the quarterback at the helms. And he's made a lot of plays. So this Bills team is literally, if they're going to get to 10 wins, it's going to legit be a Josh Allen carry. Like, I think everything is going to be on him. And listen, when you're getting paid the money he is, and you're getting paid like an elite quarterback, it's kind of what your team expects of you. So I don't think this is anything shocking or anything new for, Bills fans or people around the league. I think Josh Allen can do it, and it's going to be interesting. No Stephon Diggs, so maybe that's a plus and a negative at the same time. You're missing on a talented wide receiver, but all of that drama, him not wanting to be there, this and that, kind of the negativity around the locker room. Not so sure how true any of that was. A lot of those guys said he was a great teammate, but you know what they say, when there's smoke, there's fire. So there's obviously something there going on. He gets traded. They bring in Keon Coleman, guy they said Josh Allen handpicked, someone that Allen wanted to be there on the team, and he's looked pretty good so far in training camp. But a lot of young guys that have the opportunity to step up with Stephon Diggs gone, with a lot of targets being open now in that offense. You look at Keon Coleman, like I just mentioned, James Cook at running back. He's had kind of a breakout season last year, someone that can get some good touches in the pass game. And then you look at a Dalton Kincaid, super versatile tight end. He showed a lot of promise his rookie year. And then Khalil Shakir, who kind of came on at the end of last season, made some big plays for the Bills down the field. So a lot of opportunity here. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you're getting carried by Josh Allen on the offense. And I think Sean McDermott's going to have to, prove that he's one of the better coaches, and especially defensive coaches, because you're losing a lot of experience on that side of the ball, especially in the secondary. Jordan Poyer going to a division rival, Trey White, he's gone. A lot of guys that, are on the back end of their career, but like I mentioned, a lot of experience, a lot of winning experience playing for the Bills these past couple years. So a lot of young guys are going to have to step up. Matt Milano coming back, but he's off of an injury. How good will he be? And then that defensive line, I mean, Von Miller's still there, but I feel like they've been looking ways out of his contract for a couple of years now at this point. Greg Rousseau, I believe he just got paid a solid defensive lineman out of the University of Miami for them. So they got some pieces there defensively, but I think more question marks than answers. Kaiir Elam, UF product, he's going to be looking to step up and be the number one option now after, shaky season last year. So a lot of question marks on this team, but when you look at Josh Allen, I mean, arguably the second best quarterback in the league. I'm not going to say anyone's better than Mahomes, but you look at that number 2 slot, Josh Allen has one of the better arguments out of anyone in this league. So you got the second best quarterback, arguably the second best quarterback in the league. I think 10 wins is your floor, or should be your floor, if everything goes as planned.
Yeah, for the Bills, It's question marks at backer and secondary for them. Losing key pieces at that position. Injuries last year derailed them defensively. Now they just get worse with their Jordan Poyer being, kind of the heart and soul of that secondary, along with Trey White. Veteran presence. He goes to the Dolphins. Big pickup. He's been, making some plays in camp so far, like what I see from him getting to the Dolphins. But big question marks there for the defense when the Bills were so defensive-centric with Sean McDermott, as you mentioned, being defensive-minded head coach. That do they really have the talent? Can the coaching lead them to be defensively good enough? We'll see this season with McDermott. Keon Coleman, they bring in wide receiver, looking to make some plays with Josh Allen. You mentioned Diggs gone. The drama's out the door, but you lose a super talented receiver and a wide receiver one who can really route run with the best of them and make catches. They sign MVS, Chase Claypool. What answers do those guys provide? MVS, I think, will do fine, being he's a deep threat receiver with the Josh Allen, probably arguably, if not the second biggest arm in the NFL, up there with Pat Mahomes. So James Cook, running back one now. Can he carry the load? We know the Bills don't like running the football. We mention it year in and year out. Like, you got to be willing to run the football. Josh Allen, he's going to be your number one rusher probably, like he did, I think, 2 years ago. He was the number one rusher.
I think he was last year too, wasn't he?
He might have been last year too.
I think he was.
So James Cook, he's getting the workhorse capabilities of I don't know what, because the Bills don't run the football. They're a very one-dimensional team. But, yeah, you mentioned Josh Allen. He's not as much as a question mark as Aaron Rodgers is, but that defense, really shaky. Going to see what they're made out of this year, see if they can fill the holes, being always a really good defensive team the past few years. It's the first season where you could sit back and say maybe there's some serious question marks on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that Bills team, it'll be interesting. And we saw them run the ball a little bit more down the stretch last season when they kind of had no choice, like especially in that game against the Cowboys where they beat Dallas. They ran the ball a lot, but like you mentioned, I mean, it's going to be all Josh Allen. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the place. So that team, like you mentioned, doesn't really look to lean on the run historically in the past couple of years. So, number one, obviously at this point, process of elimination, I had the Miami Dolphins. But, I mean, I had the Bills and the Jets at 10 wins. And coming into this, kind of felt the same way about the Dolphins as I did about the Cowboys. I had two very similar ending seasons last year. Disappointing playoff losses in the first round for two teams that, played pretty well during the regular season. So I was like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to hate on the Dolphins, give a little good back and forth with Alexi, but dog, their schedule is so easy. Looking at this schedule, they had the easiest schedule out of all the teams I looked at so far in both of these divisions, and it's not even close. So I gave the Dolphins 11 wins, so I got them one win above the Jets and the Bills. But when you look at the Miami Dolphins, in the root of what they want to play, I mean, it's speed, and even more speed. Like, the way this offense is composed, you look at last year, they had all the numbers, they had all the stats. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, hopefully Waddle back more healthy this year when he's fully healthy and he was, rolling good for that team, him and Hill. There's just really no way to guard any of those guys. You bring in OBJ, and then in the running back room, you have three really good options. You look at, A-Chain, one of the most explosive players in football overall, not even just running backs, but what he averaged, like over 5 yards a carry or something like that last year. It kind of just felt like every time he touched the ball, there's a chance for it to go to the house. And then Raheem Mostert, another really fast guy, a speedster. He comes in, had, over 20 touchdowns last year. I believe was tied with McCaffrey in terms of touchdowns, so has a nose for the end zone. And then Tua got the big contract, very controversial, but I think his skill set and what he needs to do for this offense fits really well. Just get the ball to the really fast guys. You don't have to do a lot, and it might be paying Tua a little bit more than what's comfortable for that job, but I think he gets it done really good with throwing it with anticipation, fitting the ball in those tight windows, in those intermediate areas. So just getting the ball out quick, letting those guys cook. I think that's going to be a really big deal. And then the rookie they drafted, I forgot his name.
Right?
Yeah, but another speedster, I believe, from Texas, super
Tennessee,
or from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, he's another one of those fast guys that get him in open space, and he's looking to take it to the house as well. So offensively, I think it'll be pretty similar to what they were last year, just fast, score a bunch of points. And I think a lot more of the question marks, and I'm sure you would agree, will come on the defensive side of the ball. A new scheme and losing some household names, man. I believe Jerome Baker, he was released.
The
Christian
playmaker.
Christian Wilkins, you let him walk in free agency, and then also releasing Xavier Howard. Those guys that have been staples for that Dolphins defense the last couple of years. But you keep Jalen Ramsey, he's still there. Javon Holland, one of the better young safeties in the league. And then, just hoping you can get Chubb and Jalen Phillips back from injury. Hopefully they can get back to that, elite level they were playing at, because there was a point in time last year when those guys were both healthy where, the Dolphins pass rush was looking pretty good, man. So hopefully you can get those guys both back to full strength. And if not, it provides some opportunities for the rookie Chop Robinson coming off of the edge, guy they drafted in the first round, who have, you have some hopes for. But that's it, man. I'll let you go more in depth. It's your team, the Dolphins, so you can give some better insight of what's been going on so far. But as an outsider, someone looking from the outside in, I saw a super easy schedule, and then I just think they're gonna win by outscoring a bunch of people. They might also give up a lot of points, but it's gonna be hard to keep up with this Miami offense once again.
Yeah. So question marks coming in, and I sat there and I thought about it, that the Dolphins may be like the Cowboys of the AFC, being they're really good in the regular season,
good against non-playoff teams.
And I wouldn't say all that, but coming in and playing,
I think all their wins were against non-playoff teams.
A lot of them were, but they won against some playoff teams. I think it was like 2, but so I'll take it, man. Anyways, it's the fact that when teams come in scheming on that, you mentioned the quick passes, the quick hits, the RPOs, the intermediate slants to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Outside of that offense, what do they really have going? And then they have those little misdirection runs. I like what Mike McDaniel does with that. But sometimes I want to see different types of plays. I want to see him get more diverse with his playbook, other than just those fancy little plays that he likes to run. Just go, instead of being a inside zone toss, maybe go with the stretch. Go with the end around. We'll see if he can dial it up, because I think he became too predictable in that playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was the same motions. It was the same plays over and over again he ran. So I like to see them switch that up, and maybe when Tua was having trouble throwing that ball in that cold weather, lean on the run. I know it wasn't really getting going, but sometimes you got to lean on other things. And I know you like those guys on the outside, and he wants to pass the ball. Sometimes you have to get Tua going, and they couldn't get anything going. Tyreek underthrowing a deep ball was the only touchdown. I also want to see Tyreek in big games make big plays and not drop the football, something he did a lot last year as well. And then questions at center and O-line. Connor Williams is gone. They really have no O-line. First round, thought they were going to go O-line at the center position. They don't. They go Chop Robinson, who, if Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are healthy, he's going to be on the back end. And Emmanuel Ogbah, who they re-signed, that was on their roster 2 years ago, and then they signed last year in the middle of the season, he's apparently balling in camp. So Chop Robinson might be the third guy down the end, or fourth guy down the end. They like to rotate guys in and out. You mentioned 3 cornerstones of this defense for the past 5 years. Javon Baker, Xavier Howard even longer, Christian Wilkins, who really clogged up the middle. They signed a veteran guy in Calais Campbell. Is that going to work? He's really aging. His production's obviously not what it used to be. Can he be serviceable enough? Andrew Van Ginkel, who was such a starter for this defense, he's gone. Coming off the edge, playing in that 3-4 defense, really solid. Really was the only consistent guy you had on that defensive side of the ball. In the front 7, balling last year. You mentioned Javon Holland, one of the best young safeties. Jalen Ramsey, obviously still locked down. He proved it last year coming back off that injury. He's still elite on the outside. It comes down to those guys on the back end. Kader Kohu, who's probably going to finally fill back in that nickel back because when he went outside, he was getting cooked. He's really good in his slot. Nick Needham, he's back. He's balling in the slot as well. They get Jordan Poyer to be that other safety with Javon Holland, that veteran presence, help him out a little bit. Really solid pickup. They signed Anthony Walker from the Cleveland Browns, who I really like if he could stay healthy, which is a big question mark being injured for the past 2 years. He is a great leader, great middle linebacker, inside linebacker in that 3-4. Could be your play caller. They still have David Long, Duke Riley, guys like that. But it's really going to come down to that O-line. I think the defensive line, if they could stay healthy, Jalen Phillips, I really think could be a top 10 pass rusher in this league. His pressures, like you mentioned, Kayvon Thibodeau had a lot of sacks. Jalen Phillips, a lot of pressures last year before he got hurt. Not necessarily bringing the guys down, but he was always in the backfield creating pressures, bad throws. So I like that. He's coming off of a huge injury. Let's see if he could get back right. An offensive line for the Dolphins, I mean, Teron Armstead, can he stay healthy? The interior part of the line is really bad. That is a real question mark for the Dolphins and what they'll be able to do. You mentioned Odell Beckham, aging guy, speed. They signed Will Fuller, who, used to be in his prime just a speed demon on the outside, 1,000-yard receiver in his best season. And they got 4 serviceable running backs to elite running backs in that room. So I like to see them lean on that running game when that passing game isn't working. And I really think Odell might get his job taken by Eric Nzuzama, who was balling last year before he got hurt. He was really the most sure-handed receiver on the team before he went down with an injury. And I like his game. Wouldn't be surprised if he takes some catches away from guys like Braxton Berrios and Odell and guys that are ahead of him right now. And they also signed Anthony Schwartz, which should not be news whatsoever. But another guy who just stopwatch, that the Dolphins went out and got. Can they perform in the playoffs? Got them at 11 wins, top of the division. But it's going to come down to those question marks, I believe.
Yeah, and I think what you touched on with Mike McDaniels is going to be a really key factor. And I honestly think he's one of the more forward-thinking and innovative minds when it comes to the sport. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some new little kink into the offense or something new off of that motion, because no one really kind of knew what that motion was when they brought it out last season. And they were running it every play. And then as the season went on, you see, teams like San Fran implemented. A bunch of teams kind of, add that motion to their offense as well, just because it was so good. Now, when you have someone like Tyreek Hill, who is, extremely deadly at it, or Jalen Waddle, 2 guys that are super, super fast, it just adds another element. So I'd be interested to see what's the next step or the next fold off of that motion, because I assure you the Dolphins, like Mike McDaniel, is not just going to come out running that same motion again this season, especially like you mentioned, how it looked losing to the Chiefs, very vanilla, kind of, seemed like very predictable. So they had an entire offseason, and especially the way the season ended, I think he's going to definitely cook up something off of that motion, or cook up, another part of that offense that kind of becomes like the next like gimmick along in the NFL. But with this team and their personnel, it's not really a gimmick, just because they're so different and so unique with all of their speed. So I'd expect something along the lines of that motion to come out of that Miami offense again, to kind of add, just something more to an offense that already seemed overpowered.
Yeah, it just seems like he builds, like when you do a little Madden franchise, that's what he wants, man. You go ahead, look at his speed and acceleration, see the fastest guys, and that's what the Dolphins are really, they're doing. And I want to say they do play the Browns late in the season. Hopefully it's snowing and preparing Tua for these cold games, because I want to see him, that's obviously a big question mark. Can he play in the cold, sunny South Florida? He can hold the ball, play to Alabama in the SEC. He can't perform in the cold. I think he played pretty well against the Bills in the cold last year. They fell a little bit short in that game against Buffalo, but
Yeah, and you look at the AFC, man, a lot of those teams that you think that are going to be contending for a championship are cold weather teams. KC, Baltimore, Cincinnati, with all those guys back healthy.
Yeah, we'll get into Cincinnati, man. I'm not worried about them, but you're a little Slim Shady over there. All
Buffalo, a lot of teams that play cold weather games. So, like you mentioned, Tua's got to perform in the cold.
Yeah, you forgot the better team in Ohio, but we'll let it slide. For
Cleveland
this
Browns, I
episode.
forgot. Yeah, they'll be playing for AFC Championship.
All right, man. Let's see, but nonetheless, that's gonna wrap up the AFC East as well as the NFC East. You got any?
We pretty much had identical rankings, didn't we?
Yeah, this has got to be like the first time ever, I think.
Wait, you had how many wins you have for the Cowboys?
I had them 10. You had them at 9.
I had them at 10 also.
Oh, I had them 11 and 6.
Oh, okay. So I think all of our rankings are either dead on or one off.
Yeah, when it comes to record, but I mean position wise, I mean the only difference was you had the Commanders lower, but they had the same record or one win difference. I think if the Dolphins can't hit 11 wins, there's serious question marks over there in Miami, and I'm taking into anticipation of everything that the Dolphins do to me. So that's gonna wrap up Go to Go episode 99, man. AFC East, NFC East predictions, Team USA basketball, man, hooping. We'll be back next week with another episode, man. Until then, peace.